2022, this year is a very pivotal year because the Fed has to raise interest rates to fight inflation, right? So has to create deflation to fight inflation. But when those markets start to implode, the stock markets, the bond markets, the real estate markets, etc., when those prices start to drop, well, that's deflationary, and there's only one way to fight that, and that's with inflation. That's what the 0% interest rates are. That's inflationary. The easy money policy, the buying up of the treasuries of the, heck, in 2020, they were buying everything, junk bonds, everything, right? The buying up of those assets and all this new money printing, that's inflationary. So, and that's to fight deflation. And the deflation is really the battle that the central banks have been up against forever. And their job, make no mistake about this, when they talk about fighting inflation, it's garbage. It's absolute garbage. Their job has always been to regulate the rate and speed of the inflation, right? Not fight it. They just want it low enough so that you don't notice. And the problem is when they're anchored at zero interest rates, that's their key tool, and they're out of tools. That's why I keep saying the Fed is out of tools. And I think it's really interesting that they say, well, we have these very powerful tools, but they never really tell us what they are, do they? Because all they can do is create new money and keep interest rates at zero. They're between a rock and a hard place, and all that's going to get tested this year. So, frankly, you couldn't give me a 30-year treasury, and I certainly would not put my hard-earned money into any kind of treasury bond, let alone a 30-year treasury, right? That's going to have the biggest fluctuations as rates rise. You're going to lose a lot of principal value. Cash, I mean, the problem with cash is it's all about purchasing power, but it is the most recognizable to most people on a short-term basis. So you need to hold some cash, but as inflation continues to heat up, that cash loses more and more and more purchasing power value. It's part of the problem. Officially, I show you purchasing power graphs from the Federal Reserve all the time. Officially, there's 3 cents left out of the original dollar, and that's official, which means you know it's worse than that. So cash, even though you got to have some because that's still our legal tool of barter, it will lose all of its value. Inflation will ultimately, that's the problem for the Fed right now, is that because inflation is running so hot, it's noticeable to people. And when it's noticeable, they start making different choices, right? So gold and silver now, I mean, I personally own both for different reasons. But between the two, gold outperforms silver. And it holds its value, whether it's an inflationary cycle or a deflationary cycle. Because it's not just about inflation, it's also about crisis. And what do you want in a crisis? You want a wealth shield. And shields that are made of real metal in your possession are the single safest thing that you can do, period.